Hello, dear UPSC aspirants. I am Akriti Kanchi, your mentor from Prep IS, and I am trying to make your newspaper reading extremely UPSC relevant. So please keep the UPSC syllabus on the sides while I'm telling you about the newspaper, because we will match that which article we are reading from which part of UPSC syllabus, mains or prelims. I'm going to tell that also in detail. Okay, so keep the syllabus. You should know the syllabus, and this way you will remember syllabus even in better manner. So let's start with today's newspaper. 12th March, must read articles, and there was nothing in the front page today. There was one article in page number 3 directly. It is a Delhi's edition, The Hindu, right? So Delhi, there's a report which says Delhi most polluted capital in world, says report. So this comes under which topic? GS paper 3, environmental pollution and degradation. Okay, so 13 of the world's 20 most polluted cities are in India. So top 20 polluted cities, 13 out of them are in India, with Birni-Ghat in Assam topping the list. Birni-Ghat. Okay, so the World Air Quality Report 2024 by Swiss air technology company IQ Air said Delhi remains the most polluted capital city globally. Okay, while India ranked as the world's 5th most polluted country in 2024, not a very good thing for our population. 4 cities in Pakistan, 1 in China are in top 20. So India's 13 cities, more than them, right? And though India has saw a 7% decline in PM 2.5 concentrations in 2024, but in Delhi it has worsened. The air pollution in Delhi has become bad, even worse, with the annual average PM 2.5 particulate matter 2.5 concentration is increasing from 102 to 108.3. Okay, and what are the reasons? Unfavorable meteorological conditions. Very important factor is vehicular emission, that is transport, right? Paddy straw burning is also one of the issues, firecrackers during Diwali and other issues, and some local pollution sources have been mentioned as the resources here in this report. Let's move to the next article. So we directly come to the editorial page, and this article is by Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi of India. Right? So building compassion into the healthcare sector. Now this article can be seen from two parts of syllabus. One is GS paper 2, issues related to health sector, how you can improve it better. And the second part is GS paper 4, where they have talked about empathy, compassion, as values, and it can also be integrated in health sector. The question can be asked. Okay, so he's talking about compassion as a value, the best value which should be included in the health sector, and it will have a lot of positive outcomes. Okay, so WHO released a report. What is the name of the report? Compassion and primary healthcare. So they are talking about compassion and primary healthcare, recognizes compassion as a transformative force in primary healthcare. Okay, so Kailash Satyarthi wants to globalize compassion in healthcare, right? So he's quoting few researches here. Research conducted by Stanford University's the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education has found the patients treated by compassionate doctors or healthcare providers recover quickly, and the duration of their hospital stay is way less. Okay, this John Hopkins Hospital also explored how compassionate communication has a significant impact when it comes to the recovery of cancer patients. So when a doctor talks nicely to the patient in a more compassionate manner, that we are together in this, it really has a great mental, a positive effect on them, on their mental health, right? So when doctors spend an additional 40 seconds to show some solidarity with the patient, it reduces anxiety in patients. Okay, and this positively influences their recovery. So compassion is not just beneficial for patients, it's also good for the healthcare providers like doctors and nurses. Okay, it is said that it also reduces doctors stress work, it improves their job satisfaction, and it builds stronger relationship with their patients and high quality care. So compassion is good for both the sides, right? So here there's some ethics concept that he has talking about. So people generally interchangeably use words like sympathy, empathy, kindness, compassion, but here Kailash Satyarthi, the Nobel Peace graduate, the Nobel Peace laureate, is differentiating between them. So sympathy is just a pity, like, oh bichara, yeah, bichari. Empathy is like when you are in, when you come in people's shoes and you try to feel their emotions and and then you feel their pain. That is empathy. But compassion, he's saying, is even better than empathy. How? So compassion is like feeling the pain of the the person, but being emotionally stable to help them, right? So compassion is better, right? So healthcare workers who operate with empathy can experience, so if you're just working with empathy, it can lead to anxiety, exhaustion, depression in the doctors and nurses also, like the patient. So that is not what we want. We want doctors to become, even to be emotionally mature and also understanding the pain of the patients, right? So compassion is about mindful problem solving. Okay, so emotional stability to work together with patients, that will be favorable for both parties, right? So WHO report is focused on primary healthcare, but it should be included in mental health also, right? So the compassion is when we feel the suffering of, see, he has quoted, you can quote this in ethics, that Kailash Satyarthi says what is compassion, because he is an important personality. So Kailash Satyarthi explains compassion is when we feel the suffering of others as our own, and then we also have the power to solve it and act to solve it. Okay, so both things are there in compassion. So this definition will come very handy to you in your ethics paper, right? So there he's saying there is a need to create awareness of compassionate healthcare. It should become the driving principle for industry leaders. We need to equip healthcare providers, how compassionate care looks like. Little investment in quality training should be there. Difference between empathy and compassion should be told to people, right? So health care for all, and which should be irrespective of all socioeconomic stature, should be given to all people in the world, right? Let's move to the next article. More signs of overhauling the compliance framework. So this article talks more about the governance system of India and the corruption associated with it, right? So this comes under GS paper 2, government policies and interventions and issues arising out of their design and implementation. So what are the issues that people are facing because of the compliance framework that India is having? So it is saying, there's a report, India Business Corruption Survey, which says there is a troubling picture, it shows a troubling picture. 66% of business entities admit to paying bribes in India. Even now, it's a 2024 report, right? 54% stating that they were coerced to expedite government processes. If you want things to be done early, pay money, right? So obtain permits, ensure compliance, especially in which sectors? Especially in labor sector, GST, income tax, pollution, provident funds, property registration, drug and health departments, right? So these are departments where business have to pay money to get their work done early, which is not a very good sign, of inviting FDI and ease of doing business, right? So this FICCI report, Ernst and Young and FICCI report, shows that 4 out of 5 respondents believe corruption is a significant deterrent of FDI. So if there will be corruption, FDI will not like to come to India, right? So there's an urgent need to overhaul. So government has been trying to do things for it, like Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provision Act 2023, where they decriminalized 180 provisions related to imprisonment clauses that burden business and entrepreneurs. So there was a lot of red tapeism and unnecessary laws, which was a burden on entrepreneurs and business, and which discouraged business in the country, which is not the case we want. We want business, we want startups, because that will be employment giving, right? So again, in budget 2025, our finance minister announced a Jan Vishwas 2.0, where they aimed to further decriminalize around 100 provisions. But the writer is saying it's not sufficient because there are 20,000 such provisions. 100 and 200 will not be sufficient, right? So for Indian business, compliance is already a complex challenge, okay? And what is other big deal? What other big problem is they keep changing the regulations, okay? So something might be there in January, it will change in June. So this increases the compliance burden on the businesses, okay? So that is what is written, right? So there is enormous subjectivity also that is granted to inspectors. So they can shut down a factory without accountability. So that is not good for the factory owners. And overwhelming frequency of compliance updates is there, right? So a bureaucracy that needs to update rules so frequently at such an erratic pace is either incapable of foresight or complicit in fostering an environment where bribes become inevitable. So changing so many laws is not good for the businesses. So he's giving a good example of FSSAI, how FSSAI has brought a promising initiative where they have announced that changes to food label regulations will be announced only once a year. So if you keep changing, it will be difficult for them to change the packaging. right? So only once a year, which can be a good model for predictable regulatory changes. So things should be predictable. Then only certain. Uncertainty is not good for business environment. Similar measures should be extended across all regulatory bodies. Another issue is labor, which is a difficult department, is in concurrent list. Okay, so both center and state has power there. Though a government has tried to make the labor, uniform, you bring uniformal labor codes. So India has replaced 29 colonial era labor laws with 4 modern labor codes, but it is still awaiting implementation. So there also inspectors are misusing the lack of clarity in the laws. Okay, so establishing a factory in India requires submitting hundreds of self-attested and notarized documents across more than 40 departments. This is an archaic system, okay, which is not good. So India's digital public infrastructure has revolutionized governance, but business compliance remains still fragmented. Okay, entrepreneurs still needs to go and obtain several identity numbers for PAN, GST, corporate identification number, factory licenses, which is again difficult for them. Okay. So the editor is proposing one nation, one business identity, which can dramatically simplify compliance and reduce bureaucratic friction. Okay, so he's giving examples of USA, which is already a developed country, is advancing governance reforms and it has included its Department of Government Efficiency, how government can be efficient and can make it easier for business to prosper. So a developed country like USA is doing and we are not doing. So why will a business come in our country? Okay, so to make business seamless, so if the world's largest economy, which is $27 trillion, and we are a $4 trillion economy, so people will obviously go to USA, and we want India to become Viksit Bharat by 2047, right? So let's move to the next article. So this article is more about the colonialism or racism, which still is there in the science field. Science is still dominated by the Western people, right? So this comes under what's in the diseases name. This article will be important from prelims point of view. GS3, science and tech and its effects. So he's saying the diseases derive their names from towns, rivers, islands, forests, mountains, valleys, etc., like Spanish flu, Delhi boil, Madura foot, and West Nile virus. Okay, this has been the trend, which is not good because it leads to a lot of misinformation, stigma, and racial prejudice. Okay, so it harms science by politicizing it against the developing nations. Okay, so here WHO, he's quoting how WHO in 2015 mandated that this trend be avoided. Okay, so you can see the example of Zika virus also. Zika virus comes from Zika forest in Uganda. So that where scientists first isolated the virus from rhesus monkey. So Zika is the name of the forest in Luganda language. Okay, so it is not the genetic source, okay, that they have used, but the place from where they have identified. That does not become, that shouldn't be the identification with the place's name. Okay, similar thing happened in India. Dermatologists from India and 13 other countries objected to the region specific nomenclature of a fungus, which we have read this in our discussion in January also. Trichophyton indotinae. So there is a word Indo which is relating to India, and this fungus is very deadly. It causes widespread and hard to treat skin infections and is resistant to most antifungal infections. So very, very bad fungus. So that our term indotinae is not giving good connotations. This Japanese dermatologist who had spotted the fungus in patients from India and Nepal, but its origin is not found yet. So you cannot surely say that it is coming from India, right? So origin of fungus is not clearly known. It is there in more than 40 countries. So why bring a country's name there? And it will be a wrong misnomer, right? And it is a ubiquitous, so this can come in prelims. What is Trichophyton indotinae? It is a ubiquitous skin problem known as ring form and is resistant to the first line oral drug terbinafine. You should know these names. This can be asked in prelims for sure, right? So he's saying the WHO notes that assigning names to new diseases should be a responsible act, and all the WHO member states should be there while discussing it. Okay, so they should focus on finding causes of diseases and pool together resources to find ways of preventing and curtailing them under precision in language and description. So the name should be place is neutral and race neutral, right? That is what the writer is saying. Let's go to the next article. Okay, so here there is a report, the data, firstly, is rising consumer credit cost for concern. So this comes under GS paper 3, economy, which is mobilization of resources, growth, development. It's also important from prelims point of view. Why? Because it has been talked about in the report by RBI. So it can come in the question. This report is brought by which organization? So Financial Stability Report is brought by RBI, and it has called attention to the question of household finances and consumption loans. So recent report highlights the shift towards healthy and prime borrowers, which is a good thing, but there's a significant amount of borrowing being done for the purpose of consumption is a cause for concern, signaling macroeconomic weakness in the economy. So till now, people used to take loan to buy houses, which was used to be an asset. But now I'm taking loan to consume something, to buy a phone, and for consumption, which will not lead to increase in the assets of family. So that's not a very good sign. Okay, so assets should increase. The RBI present that rising borrowing is being driven by increase in the number of borrowers, and the rise in borrowing for consumption, especially among households with lower levels of income, is something that requires due attention, is not a very good sign. There are certain data and reports written here, which you can see. A reduction in assets and then increase in debt indicates that a greater proportion of borrowing is being used for consumption. An economy with greater level of household debt, especially from poorer households, might show lower growth for the same amount of investment. So it's not a good sign for overall economic growth also, right? So household earning less than 5 lakh have largely taken on unsecured loans for consumption purposes. So poor families might be taking for marriage and some events related, some parties related thing, which is not a good thing. Okay, let's move to the next article. Okay, and we'll directly so this article we can just mention. Yesterday we talked about ASHA workers, right? How the editor was asking for more money or more salary should be given to ASHA workers. So health minister, our health minister has talked about it in the Rajya Sabha. JP Nanda has talked about it in Rajya Sabha and has asserted the same. Okay, this comes under GS paper 2, health sector. ASHA workers will get enhanced pay, say union minister. He was replying to supplementary during the question hours, lauding the work done by ASHA workers. They have helped reduce maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate levels. So you should know the definitions of MMR, IMR, right? And you should know all the details about question hours from your Lakshmikant Constitution of India, right? Let's move to the next article. Yeah, on this article from economy point of view, Airtel Bharti to bring in Starlink satellite net services to India. So GS paper 3, infrastructure internet. So Starlink is whose project? It is SpaceX Elon Musk project. Okay, so both firms will explore offering Starlink equipment at Airtel's retail stores via Airtel to business customers. It will connect communities, schools and health centers. They are planning in the distribution agreement allowing to sell SpaceX Starlink services in India. Okay, this is what their plans are. Let's move to the next article. India, so you should, this kind of statements comes in prelims that India is the second largest nation with respect to FDI incoming. So you should know, which is a false statement, right? So you should know which country is getting the highest amount of FDI, right? So India emerges as a top source of FDI investment, not the top importer, but the top exporter of FDI into Dubai, right? So it's a prelims fact. India has emerged as a key source country for FDI into Dubai, as the desert city has retained its top position as global FDI destination. Dubai has been ranked the world's #1 destination for greenfield projects for the 4 successive years. So as we were talking about in that article about compliance issues, so India is not getting the most of FDI. Dubai is. We should learn from Dubai how to invite and how to attract businesses and FDIs, right? So India has become the top source, right? Let's move to the last article of the day, science page. New greener electrochemical process turns urine into plant fuel. So this kind of projects are constantly happening. It also eliminates waste first, and it is converting the waste into a very good resource. Okay, so this comes under GS paper 3, science and tech development and its application in everyday life. So in a journal Nature Catalysis, it proposes to convert urea, a nitrogen rich compound in urine, into a crystalline peroxide derivative called percarbamide. percarbamide. Okay, you should know about these words. It will help two things at once, that is treatment of urine in urban wastewater and then creating it an amazing resource. Okay, so urine is considered a liquid gold. It is packed with phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, all three main ingredients of fertilizers. Okay, the big three nutrients that fuel plant growth and form the backbone of commercial fertilizers. So researchers found they could maximize precarbamide production by holding the concentration of urea between 15% and 38%. It promotes root respiration and crop growth. Okay, so percarbamide is known for its ability to steadily release active oxygen, making it a valuable candidate for processes that need to supply oxygen for other chemical reactions. Okay, so these are some important things that you should know from prelims point of view also, and you can use in solid waste management in GS paper 1 also, right? Last article, just for basic knowledge, lie detectors, reading your vitals. So polygraph test, you might have seen in a lot of series and movies that it is a lie detector test which is used by interrogation by police. So polygraph test generally see how your blood pressure, heartbeat and respiration and perspiration are responding to a question. Based on that, it is just giving results whether you are lying or saying the truth. But there is a consensus among scientists that polygraphs are ineffective, unreliable and easily overcome. So such statement can come about polygraph, and you should know what is the quality of these kind of instruments. That's it for 12th March. Thank you.